We invite you to sit back and get comfortable as we take you on a journey back to those wonderful days of yesteryear. Leave your cares and troubles behind you as you journey back to the glory days at Cal Poly. And remember the friendships and camaraderie that were unique to that period of your life. Relive Dean George Hasslein's introductory lecture on the College of Architecture and what was about to begin in our 4, 5, or 6-year journey into the unknown. Smile when you see friends from long ago, or when one of George's patented expressions strikes a happy note. You may be moved to phone or write an old friend you see in this video, or perhaps you won't even see them, but their memories will burn strong in your heart. Please enjoy the vision, the dream, the whole enchilada that was ours to experience. Thank you and enjoy.
Students, it's a pleasure talking to you. I've been doing this now for over 45 years. And what I'm talking to you about is your education and what you can get out of Poly and how this place started. And your careers are going to be much like what happened here. You're going to start with nothing, then eventually it will flower into something that you can talk about as well. What I'm going to show you is 45 years of slides of the construction of this place. Now you're going to see a lot of building, pounding, and moving rocks, this sort of thing. However, it's really not about construction. What we're really talking about is about history. If you were here during these periods, you'd never see much of construction. You're going to think that all we ever did was moved bales, dug holes, pounded, but that was really very remote. What really is important about the place is the spirit. And this is what the slides will show. And when I want you to also think about your education, and what I found was, working together and from where we started, it was the spirit of the place that built where we are now. It is a very, very important school in the nation, which for a long time has been the largest and the most sought after. And it happened really despite any predictions or anything that anybody ever knew. In fact, predictions were you could not have this kind of school, as sophisticated as this is, in the location called San Luis Obispo. Why? When it started, San Luis Obispo was an unknown place, one of the throwaway areas of our country. And you can always tell a throwaway area by a certain number of significant signs. Number one, you'll find more prisons there. We have 4. Great, one of the largest underground oil storage places out on Tank Farm Road. See? Atomic energy plant, steam plants at Morro Bay, all signifying worthlessness. And it was nothing but an agricultural college. We were just a division, an engineering division. But out of that came the program which you see here. During our period of growth here at this place, studies were made by our system of education, seeking where to put up programs like ours. Every study that was ever made proved that San Luis Obispo was an impossible place to have these majors. Why? No urban center, no practicing professionals, no great liberal arts area, no art program, etc. But yet, in spite of all that, and we prove that to be wrong. If you were to ask me now what I know about education, if it were possible to build a place like we have here, I would say now it would be impossible. You couldn't do really what happened here at Poly. And what I've learned to respect is ignorance. Our being ignorant of that, had we known then what we know now, Poly would not be here. See? Well, with this in mind, student, I want to take to the slides. All right, now, students, here we are in 1950. And this is the kind of facility here that we had here. You know, previously, Poly, in years past, had been a reform school. It started out that way. And it was then some kind of occupational place, and then it became maybe agriculturally centered. Then during the war, in fact, just about a quarter of all the GIs were trained in the area here, the forts that they had, and the training grounds. So there were a few facilities left over from World War II, and these were the facilities. This would be a mess hall here on the right. All right, so you come up here, and that's where you're going to start teaching you people about the field that you want to go into. See? Well, so you look the place over and you say, God, we got the knowledge. You people have the energy. Okay? And the energy, that driving force you have, students, that youth, you begin to understand as you get older how important that is. And able to round the clock, you're able to focus, and nights that are applied to whatever you're doing. Energy is an important factor in you. So you have that. So we say, what we need then is a sense of identity. We need a place where we are our center. Like a city has a center, there's your capital for the U.S., etc. Well, we need a center as well. So started the students off here building a wall. Now, to take all the courses you took now, it was a very rigorous program, all the math and that sort of thing. But see, there was one good thing about it, which is a negative, but you have to understand it. One good thing about it was there was nothing else for you to do. There was no rec center, no student union. There were only a couple of bars in town. It was a dead town. It closed up at night. There's nothing for you to do but live here on this piece of ground here. So we started you saying, hey, wait a minute, part of your education. And the great thing about it was you're very unsophisticated. You never really intended to come to university. The war gave you that opportunity, and so you believed everything we told you. Well, all right, so we're building a sense of place, and here is a vermiculating wall that has structural principles about it. And then we say to you, now look, chums, you got to go out there, and you've got to find the materials some way. So you go into the community, you go to a brickyard, and you manage donations, you bring bricks that they can't be used, and you start, and here's the wall. All right? The wall is built there. Landscaping is important, starting to grow. One of the students found some large rocks down by the railroad track, so they come up, we're starting to give that a sense of place, and we're on the fringes of campus. Nobody ever came to how far out we were. You had to get through mud to get to where we were located. And here's some more of the buildings were available for classroom. Okay, all right, now, give us about 10 years, and this is the place, the sense of place that we have here on the left. The walls off a little farther there, and you students are musicians, and so in the afternoon we would have jazz concerts, and this is before amplification, and before that period. Yes, and it was used now for get-togethers, for interaction, people interaction, very important. For quality of life, that people have to support one another. Sometimes I get worried about the computer generation and the isolation, but this involvement with people and developing people values and sensitivities, so important. All right, now, the inside was the mess hall. And so we built that little platform up there, and what was really grateful and wonderful was the fact that we had a lot of war surplus junk. They just dumped a lot of metal, steel, wood, and so forth on campus just to get rid of it. Well, this was a great resource for us. So the steel that is in that little balcony came from that. And of course, the kind of people that we had, a little older, that had maybe carpenter experiences and so forth. So it was very useful. But most of this stuff was built now after class. Then bringing up visitors, and giving you demonstrations on rendering and drawing. And you could just whistle, everybody would gather around, and you begin to notice that there is a rapport that is developing, that somehow you're developing a unity. And if you will get students or see graduates of that era, their loyalty to this place and to you people, they're really fierce, it's ferocious. Once you're looking for a job and they hear, oh, there's a poly person out there at the desk. They rush out to talk to you to find out what's going on at the school, how things are, is old so-and-so still there, etc. and whatnot. See? All right, now, here you have it on the left. You see that little sense of place, the bougainvillea, the shadows, the leaves, whatnot. There it is at its height. Here now, we entertain our visitors where we were on the outskirts of campus. Now the president of the university will bring visitors to our place here. And you're learning something about the kind of work that you do. Okay? You can give a sense of life and a sense of love in the things that you create. And this is your satisfaction with what you're doing. And so there's Buckminster Fuller. And I could talk to you about Buckminster Fuller for hours, but an amazing visionary. He saw this place and what was happening. He would come back every year. He traveled the world over, every university. He never missed our place. He saw something here which I didn't, and he sensed the spirit that you people had, that bit of work, investment, and the spread of disciplines. Well, all right, now, chums, we didn't have any custodians, we didn't have any janitors, etc. You were the janitors. You learned to take care of the place. You did the painting, the maintenance. And so here it is. Okay? And it was rather easy. It was yours. It was your education. It was something involved, and you took pride in this sort of thing. All right, now, we're getting a little more sophisticated. We're short of facilities. We want a seminar room. So then we have a little course, a little 2-unit course, and we will give you an assignment. And in this assignment, there's no instructors. It's up to you to get it built. Use anybody you can find to help you. Any kind of mentoring that you need. It's not a formalized class. And so your assignment here was a curving beam. Build a curving beam. And what we were going to do is turn it into a seminar room. We needed a seminar room. So here's the model, see? And then this is our construction yard, which is a sidewalk right here. And so there are number 1 or better sheets of 1x6, now building the beam. Putting it in place, there's the form, and this is the live load. We're just testing it out, see, here. And it's kind of neat. These things that are going on, you see them, and you share them as well, even though you're not involved in the project. 2 students were responsible for building the beam, but everybody participated. There they go into place. War surplus steel, see? And gee, it was so great being on an agricultural campus because the facilities were here. Just go down to the ag shop and whistle, they'd set up a crane, help us. And so there it is finished. Now, how interesting it was, on the right, we got this far. A student came up and said that his father had taught him to lay stone. And he would like to put up some stone. So sure enough, he spent his weekends, his extra time, putting in the stone that you see there. And here it is on the left, and it became one of those sense of places that was useful, and I'll get into the little gadgets that you see there a little later. And then other kinds of projects, and there you see a fireplace. And what you're finding is creative education is teaching you now to get rid of your conditioning. You know, we're born in a box, we live in a box, and we're buried in a box. We say, wait a minute, we can occupy other kinds of spaces, we can have other kinds of forms. Creativity is very important. We want to get you to look at things for itself alone, and that's where the art part comes in. Well, this is a fireplace. The idea was to do a sculptural fireplace. And there you see it going up, and it worked very well. Now, we were right next to the place where the dairy bottled some of their milk. And the instructor came up one day to me and he says, "George," he said, "our milk is picking up some bad odors." And I didn't know what he was talking about, just like you don't know what I'm talking about when I mention the bad odors. I say, "Oh, well, that's too bad." And he says, "Well, no." He says, "It's your students." "What do you mean, my students?" And he finally looked down and didn't want to tell me, but he says, "They're using that fireplace as a urinal." Well, see, what happened was that our toilets were a distance away, so this was the shortest distance to the lab, you see, and so that's why it was being used. Now, that was before we had women here, you see. All right, so this business then about being creative and about conditioning. Here you have a structure that is made of plastic material, concrete, and it takes the principle of an egg. Have you ever taken an egg and tried to break an egg just by pushing on the ends? That little thin shell resists it. So you think, hey, wait a minute, that is very useful idea in structures, in building buildings, spanning roofs and things of that sort. The double curving surface has structural possibilities. So these students took that on. Then it was a matter of forming it. So this was their solution. And here it is completed. All right, now, Buckminster Fuller. Interesting man. I told you we could talk about Bucky for hours. But what he was after, in even the early 50s, he was talking ecologically about saving materials. And so this is a geodesic dome that you see on the left here. And it is the shape that uses the least amount of material to enclose the greatest volume, strangely enough. So see, enclosing a volume with minimum amount of materials. Also, it's very portable. Unscrew it, pack it up in a small package, drop it somewhere, and you can then erect it again. And so you see, you compare it with the concrete structure. Boy, you can't pick up that concrete structure, but you can pick up Bucky's dome with no problem. Okay? So there's this kind of thinking that goes on here. All right, so we decided we're going to build one of those domes, and we're going to make it a chapel, and we're going to put it up on the walls. Well, we'll put it up there on the hills and weave it in between some trees, so trees will come out of it. So engineers, architect, construction, landscape, the whole bunch of you are working together on this, and this is the model. It was never built. The chapel was never built, but we did get the dome built. All right, here it is being erected. Rain or not, 5 students, math majors. One of the students was great at math, one was engineer, architect, construction. It went on. And we only had one program then. There's no way we could break it up in the specialties. And then again, good old war surplus boiler tubing. It was rusty. We clean it. And out of that, that's the piping that you see there. And then there was a monument in our driveway. And you people, the freshmen, would paint it a different color every year. And so it was a freshman tradition. You'll see it now up in the canyon. All right, now, folded plate. Ever take a piece of paper? It wobbles, doesn't it? It has no structural principle or properties whatsoever. You fold it, by heavens, you can span a distance with it, can't you? Without it flopping. Well, all right. Can that idea then be used structurally? See? Yes, indeed. So you people decide that you're going to build an entrance now to the chapel. And so this is it, and this is, on the right now, is a paper model, and you're putting that in place. But notice that you have taken out some of those little members out of that dome. All right, you're still going ahead with it. And comes time to erect your entrance there. You whistle, all the students come out, you people come out of the lab and watch it go in place. And you find that it doesn't work. Why? When you take that big heavy thing and attach it to the dome, which has lost its integrity when you take those little members out, so it's a failure. But that's great. You know, you learn through your suffering, and you learn, importantly, from your failures as well. Anyway, this is putting it up, and it reminds me of the flag raising at Iwo Jima, all right? But it was a monument to learning. All right, now we begin to get more sophisticated. Another principle. I can take a little metal tube or wire and put it in, say, concrete or masonry, and I can stretch it, and I can post tension. That means I put pressure on it, and it'll hold things together. See? Another principle. So the idea then was to make a monument out of masonry units that you see here, and then by, as you see on the left, by taking a torsion wrench and stretching that cord, that steel cord, you put tension on it, and you put compression now on that member, and that thing will stand up, and you can climb it, and it'll swing like a fishing rod. It just has that kind of quality. It's amazing, concrete doing that. Well, so you see, you're after how to build it, creativity, the idea, then making it work. And also, it's a beautiful monument. In fact, this is the beginning of our national reputation. This thing was circulated nationally. The brick people and the stone people use it in their advertisement as well. And of course, see what happened was, here you see it has fatigued, so many people got up and went back and forth on it that it broke at the base. It just wore out. See? Folded plate, similar principle that we showed you on Bucky's Dome, that entrance. There's a folded plate going into place. Hyperbolic paraboloid, double curving surface, the egg principle, but all done with straight lines. So you can use straight lumber, amazing, and out of straight lumber create a curving surface which gives you structural possibilities, which saves materials. How about concrete block? What should concrete block look like? See? Well, these students experimented with triangular concrete block. Just another way of looking at the world. See? And they're beautiful. See? Oh, the reason, this was a little canyon structure, a little bridge. And the point of this was, these are pictures that I took on Easter morning, meaning the students were so interested and so involved in what they did. And that's what it's all about. If you can't learn without application, without interest. And it's just marvelous to see that. Failure, it rained. Why did it fail? The ground got wet and the stakes pulled out. A truss, very creative. The feeling for shape and form is critical in the work that you do. This is your artwork. Encouraged to get into art. Okay? Connect it now with structures. Okay? And engineers who can talk to architects and appreciate, there's a tremendous demand for those people. And this is the Poly's engineering program here. Okay? Then we covered all our area, and we got into the community. A elementary school needed a bridge to get students across a little draw. Your assignment was build it in the shop, move it out to the site. Well, you did that. You came and asked me how to move it out there. Couldn't get a truck to do it. You couldn't get a telephone pole carrier. You even tried to get a missile carrier, and that was a joke. But anyway, you did find a way of getting it there. Okay. It never fails, human labor. And the idiots, you got to make your designs idiot-proof. You got to think like an idiot. And who would think that the challenge was to walk across the top edge? One of your objectives, since this was a lost, alone place, nobody knew about it, was that each year you did the best you can to acquaint the public with who you were and what you did. And this was called Poly Royal, now called Open House. So you decided now to use a welding process to build a piece of sculpture. Here you see the sculpture on the right, and that thing there is about 12 inches high. On the left, you see it now being built out of wax, and you're going to use this process called thermite, and which amounts to taking some chemicals and steel in combination, setting it off at a high temperature. It turns the steel to molten metal, and it pours into a mold and forms the object you see on the right. And this is called the lost wax process. So here you're building the model in wax. Later you're going to put a form around that, pack sand around it, melt the wax, and then pour the hot metal. There it goes off. This is the object. There it goes off. The crucible broke, and we had people from all over the community. We broadcast the event statewide. There were 1,000 people around it, and mothers threw themselves over their children, and a sort of a mushroom-shaped cloud gathered over our department there. But fortunately, nobody was hurt. And all you have left is just something that looks like an old dog bone. Well, you got the publicity that you wanted. Okay? But what was important was about the teamwork, the idea, and again, failures are encouraged for what you learn. Well, all right, following the same ideas, how to now develop a profile, get exposure, we look the world over and you think, gee, these professional organizations, our people are going out to get work from other professionals. What do they know about the graduates of Cal Poly? They want to somehow acquaint them with your productivity, your work ethic, and the things that you can do. So all our organizations, or all our majors, have professional organizations. And so one of them meets up at Yosemite and other places, and so you inquire as to how you can bring some students up there. And that means meeting something like 700 professionals that are there for their own mutual education. And they've never had students at these kind of events. There's always this great gap between the professional societies and students. So you look at the opportunity and say, boy, imagine meeting 700 people that employ us. Well, all right. So you go and talk to the professional committee that is arranging their convention and say, look, we've got all this energy. We've got these students. Any work you want done, exhibits, memberships, ushering, whatever it is, we'll do it for you. They're a little suspicious, but they say, all right, very well. We have an exhibit that we want done. And so indeed then we sleep out under the trees in Yosemite, and of course you do all the dirty work, custodial work and whatnot, but you're taught to do that at school. You work hard, you're there on time, and so this is the first exhibit that you build. And this is in the late 50s. Now what has happened, you've developed an identity. The identity is that, gee, Poly students are productive, they work hard, they're no trouble. You're invited next year, but this time they're given money to do something a little more complex. You are also provided with housing and food, and you're accepted. They know Poly, and so each year now you start this tradition. Here's one been done at Monterey on the left. On the right, you see another one that'll be done at Monterey, and these are wind chimes. You design it, and so it is something very creative, something that now adds spirit now to the convention. And on the right here, these wind chimes will rock in the wind. So you see the rocker-like base, and they're colorful, and they're spread out over the grounds. And they're given more and more money each year to do these kinds of things, and they're fun, they're ideas. And so what you're doing is seeing people, other professionals, react to your ideas and your acceptance. You're finding people know who you are, you have an identity. Why? Because you're so productive and you're so friendly. And also what's nice about it too, which I found, was that when we send 50 to 100 of these people now, previously we started out with maybe 6 or 7, now 100 are going. And the architects and the landscape people and the professional people love to have you. Why? Because you're the only people that listen to them. See? Well, all right. So it works both ways. Okay? And here on the right, there's a theme. The theme here was the city. And this now is an object here that you created to represent the city. It's an old hay baler, makes noise, it makes smog, and it yells. And whenever you turn this thing on, people would run out of the seminar rooms, come to see it. You know, they're so pleased with it. Well, you were asked kindly not to run it while where the meetings were in progress. Then on the left, this one here, they gave you $5,000 now to build this one. And it became more complex and more wonderful each year. Well, you really had some friends. Now, San Luis Obispo is an isolated place. You really shouldn't have a school here. We know that because it's so far from the professionals, it's so far from where anything constructively is happening. So we've got to make efforts now to handle that particular situation. So we send you people out on field trips. And so these are the field trips every year to San Francisco, to Los Angeles, San Diego, etc. So what we do have, though, is isolation to get you now to focus on your studies. You know, we have you under our thumb. It's wonderful. And there's no work to do. There's nothing to do but do your schoolwork. You know, what a dream for an instructor. But at the same time, we have to make up, you know, for the negatives, which are the lack of communication and interaction. So this is done, say, with malice and forethought. Well, all right, now, here we are at this height, this wonderful spirit. If we knew that this was really, we didn't really anticipate this would really be what has made the school. We're now one of the most important schools in the nation. We have more people applying, and we're getting a new building, and the old building must come down. So here you see, you know, there are fireplace, urinal. You see the seminar room going down, and this would really hurt. And here's a new building that's going up. Now the question is, will we survive? Can we maintain that same spirit, that same support? Professionals treasure you people because of your work ethic and your attitude. And that remains to be seen. Now, what a frightening thought. On the left, this was a little building by the time it was ready to come down. You had worked on it for 12 years, and it was those throwaway surroundings which I showed you, you recollect? And now look what it looks like now. It's a thing that you own. Every rock, every nail, every bit of paint, you put on that. There's been a zero budget, no money whatsoever. And here's this thing of spirit, murals, war surplus material, gallery, and so forth. And, you know, when we, as the few faculty that we had at the time, were thinking about putting this thing together, you know, we were thinking about just getting any kind of facilities, and this was the object, just to get a place. But then we began to see, and we were learning, we were doing something more important than we even ever realized, and that was getting the spirit, the way you feel about the place. And you owned it, it was yours, every single inch of it. You brought people around, graduates did, just to show how the place had changed and what you had done when you were there. And you couldn't wait to see what the students who were coming after you did. And you're learning a lot about the work that you're in. You're going to look at your community that way. You're going to look at the city that way. So you look at the world that way. Well, all right, so we're faced with this other thing. Now, this place on the left, you had freedom. Nobody cared what you did. Useless. You could pound. We kept the windows open and the doors open all night. It was a throwaway place, and you made it into something that, and the spirit was really most important about it. Now you're faced with this new building. We'd be able to keep the spirit. And really, all of us, if we knew then what we know about education, we wouldn't be in this room together, because it was impossible to do what happened there. And if you had the knowledge about what it takes to do things, it wouldn't happen. So ignorance is wonderful. It's a talent. And you have a lot of that, and you'll use it to your own ends. All right, now, check it out then. This is what you're leaving on the left, the place of spirit. And this is what you're given in return. The custodians or the janitors own this place. And keeping the lights open at night. Now, wait a minute. Before, nobody cared. Now, we've got a question. We've got to get approval. In the state system, no building has its lights on after 5 o'clock. Now, this is that construction yard comparable to this. And if you look at it there, you can see there's some sirens up there. You can see there's a person walking back and forth with a machine gun. You know, it's like a prison yard, isn't it? So this is your challenge. So will little Nell live or not? Well, okay. So we're contrasting our events on the left with what you're facing here now on the right. The interiors now, you see the difference? And you're dealing in environments. This is where people live, what people respond to. Now, but something on the other hand, something good is happening. Here's a construction yard that I showed you on the left, but this now is what we have on the right. Does it have possibilities? Then you find that yes, we get more technology. And that comes. Because you had done such a good job, and so many people were pounding, trying to get into this place, yeah, they let us keep the lights open at night. So you make your own luck in that regard. And tools build tools. On the left now, we've got a shop, and we're building a stress yard. And yes, stressing equipment on the right. Then we begin to get into more sophisticated kind of experiments. This here now was a structure to house an agricultural family to be built for under $750, and using the principles of Buckminster Fuller, whom I talked to you about previously. And here is now making construction elements like bricks or stone out of agricultural waste. And on the left, remember how we started out here? Well, on the right, we take those same brick and we bring them down. So you've got a lot of labor now. We have 800 of you people going on toward 1,000. And it's just a different scale. We bring those on down to the new building because, yes, very little budget at the time. Then we try to have the walls and arrange that the walls give you lessons and tell stories, building some sand sculpture, which is raised, put on the wall, you see to the right. Same thing. Well, all right, now attempting the same spirit. Who takes care of this place? You do. You clean the floors, you wash the walls, just as we did previously, giving you again ownership. This is your place, and you think about it. You know, who gives this to you? It's paid for by tax money. You people are really graced by being able to come to a state university. And who pays for it? It's the people that pick the agricultural products, people that spend their money at the grocery store, tax supported. These people now expect that you're going to return something to them. This is what your education is about. Well, all right, you take care of these things. They are costly. Now, that prison yard, after a number of years of trying some rather feeble attempts to get the spirit into it, we decided to take the whole school. We're over 1,000 at that time. You people now have been used to teamwork. You understand how to do this thing. We're going to take a week just before our open house. We used to call it Paulie Royal at that time. So 1,000 of you people are going to try to civilize that construction yard. And so you organize, you have a design committee, you have a procurement committee, construction committee, publicity committees, on and on. Organization is wonderful. You've learned this thing, and this is something you can do. And so here it starts. You got plans, you got the ideas, and you got the resources to do it. It looks like a World War I battlefield. We're going to bring trees in, humanize it. Well, all right, so here the trees come. Where'd you get the trees? They're building Yosemite dorms. And so we asked if we can have some of the olive trees that the orchard was there previously. Yes. So people, along with some agricultural equipment, brought the trees in. And there they go. It's 1 week of work. Will you make it before all the people come to visit or not? And again, material from the army camp out here, throwaway things. And there it is in 1 week. It's all ready. The exhibits are up, and the scale is different. You get the picture scale now. It works on a greater magnitude, and different kinds of things happen. So you compare now the two yards. Again, it's a lesson. So yes, it was good that we let this go. You begin to understand education is like the blackboard. You put up all these numerals and information, you erase it. Well, this yard again is like a blackboard. You know, this is what you do in life. Now, again, we find that amplification is here. We had the little jazz band before. Now we're doing with amplified music. And events occur there, same kind of thing on a greater and larger scale. This is where you are now. And what's interesting too, it brings all sorts of events into the place. On the left, we had Big Sur up there. It was a great dropout place during the 60s and late 60s. And these that you see on the left are dropout musicians that we brought down from Big Sur to do whatever they do for you. On the other hand, the faculty wives also tootle for you as well. So you see the interchange, it becomes an educational trading post. All right, each year something different happens here. On the left here, we decide to cover the patio construction yard, as it's called officially, with parachutes. And on the right, some poles were being put up. Now, I was in my office, I looked out, and there's this student up there on that pole. Let me tell you, my palms even sweat now when I think about that person climbing that thing. And of course, you don't want to destroy the spirit, so I go out very nonchalantly and stand under the thing, so in case he falls, he'll fall on me. Because really, it'd be just as bad if he fell. In fact, it'd be worse on me than it would be on him. So nevertheless, this was the objective, putting up those sails, and yeah, there it is. See? This is that same construction yard, and you turn the center part into a little pool. And it's so interesting. You people work day and night, without sleep, maybe for 2 nights, to get that thing ready for opening day. And when the thing opens up, people come in to enjoy it. People are enjoying it. Your work, you're asleep. Well, here it is. And those are the parachutes we're talking about. And again, here's a little streaker on the left. It was the period of the streakers. And students, this epitomizes what you're going to do in your life. There's nothing more satisfying for you than to walk through and to experience an event like this and watch people respond to your ideas. You are projecting, using your imagination, your creativity, your knowledge, to put an environment together which people enjoy, communicate, and just to see them in that feeling of adoration and experiencing what you imagine, it's just marvelous. You are the putters, say, in this world. All right, now earthquake in Iran, and the problem that is assigned to you is to quickly put up structures in an earthquake-ridden country. Now, what has happened, just from what I've been showing you, you've developed a lot of credibility. And when you deliver, you find that people will trust you and they will support you. So what's happening, we're beginning to develop support on the outside of our boundaries. So people that are in construction will come up and help you. We're having grads now. You've got a group of alumni out there that just love you people, do anything you ask. Even find jobs for you, etc. They want to come back and share what they've learned with you. It's that spirit that you have developed while you're here. Well, now we have call on people that are out in the field to come and help you. And these are the grads. And so on the right, somebody that knows something about spraying concrete, gunite, will bring up that equipment. Not our equipment, but equipment that will come up to help you. Somebody else knows somebody in LA that has these pneumatic forms, these balloons, and you can use those as forms to form concrete. Well, there we go. All right, those go up, yes. And again, that old blackboard idea, we only have limited space, so down they come. Other kinds of experience, a space frame. Here's this wonderful light structure that covers this area. So you see what we're talking about? We're talking about creative approaches, seeing things differently. You've got materials, understanding the needs now, and coming up with some original idea that has some sense to it as to why it should be done. Well, all right, now, we're so organized, you people are so productive, and we're making friends, we decided to take on the president's house. So we tore half of it down and put it back together, and believe me, how you make friends, resources begin to come our way now. So the more you do, the more support you're going to get. Okay? And again, there's a little bridge up to the ag building there. There's the model here on the left. Here on the right now is that which you built. And you find that we have outside people, outside engineers coming to work with us on this, and they become part of our teaching faculty, just merely because they enjoy working with you people and feeling your spirit. Now, by this time now, we've got our construction program, and we're taking on more sophisticated kinds of projects. Previously we were just architectural engineering. What I did, I divided those out in terms of what we're doing now, but we didn't have a formal name. In fact, the majors were really bootlegged for the first 15 years. Finally, we were able to put them into the catalog, and yes, we got construction and planning and landscape. All that had been part of it, but it was nameless until we developed enough credibility when we had more applications to this place than any school ever in the nation has ever had. It's something like 2,000. Well, you begin to have people listen to you, so the new programs came about. And this is when we have our construction program. See? And what I showed you there was a bridge that's going over to the aero hangars. And again, remember I talked about these wires, these cords, and you stress them? Well, this is what happened here. And here we got something like $20,000 to build this little bridge. We're getting into something that's much more sophisticated. And here's a form, and you see that catenary down there at the bottom. Well, that's where the steel cords went. And you stretch those things. Marvelous little creature. And not only then, we've really plastered all the area that we have, the available area, and so we're taking on the community and the rest of the campus. So here you'll see these little spots here on campus which you've built. Believe me, do people welcome you on this campus. Those are all your work. All right, now we so had covered the area that we needed some spots. So you think that this campus has 7,000 acres. They should be able to get a couple of acres that we could use as a construction yard. Well, this was rather hard to do. Why? Because agricultural people are very covetous of their land. And it took a little while to convince the administration they should give us some acreage way out in the agricultural area to use for our construction projects. And agricultural people were very against it. So what I did is I went down to Alex Madonna, asked him if he would let us use his yards out there near the highway to build your construction projects. And you knew that he was one of these people that liked to do spectacular things. He had camels and bison and all that sort of, even some tigers and lions out there. And so yes, and so I told the administration that indeed Alex Madonna was willing to support our learn by doing philosophy here at Cal Poly. Well, we had the canyon in a week. And so this is the canyon. This is how it starts out, and this is where you're going to be working. Now, the first project went up. And this, again, is a challenge. All these things are challenges. Again, we're stretching steel, but it's a piece of sculpture. It's beautiful, and it's using now this exotic kind of technology and engineering. And yes, on the left, you see our graduates coming back with the equipment to show you people how to use it. Well, it was kind of interesting because, when you stretch those wires like a bowstring, they have a tendency to want to break. And so you realize the calculations were incorrect, and so you learn through your errors and the things that you do wrong, you learn through your suffering, and so you put the elements together, and it worked. Now, another construction approach was how to avoid building a building out of wood, then putting concrete around it, then tearing the wood building down. And that's what you do when you put all this formwork up. So here what you do, you're going to pile up dirt, see? Put some concrete over there, dig the dirt out, and that's what this is. So you see the dirt form going up there. There's the final object on the right. And then you see the concrete being sprayed on again. And you see the dirt being removed. So, dirt forming. Okay. A sundial, beautiful thing. And it would tell you the hour of the day just by the shadow. And, of course, beautiful as it was, it failed. So there are, in fact, when you go to the canyon, students, I promise you that there are more things under the ground that never got up or failed than are above the ground. See? Failure is important. You learn a lot through failure. Again, another exotic structure, and this is called stress reversal. Here you build a form out of steel wires, like you see on the left. And here's a big tower in the center, like a tent pole. And you string these wires to it. Now then you will take that same form and spray concrete on it. Now what you do is you take out that central column and the thing will stand in place. This is called stress reversal, where the stress was in one direction when you had the tent pole. When you take the tent pole out, the stress reverses, and the thing gives you a free form underneath. You get this space, and you've done it again without any wood forms. And what's more, the surface curves. Well, there's a lesson for everyone. But to us, the idea of your teamwork, working together, the fact that you had to get people to help you with the calculations, the fact that you got people to pay for it, and who were involved with what you were doing, all this is part of the lesson of doing this. And it was kind of interesting. Once you get involved and you love your work, believe me, it's around the clock, day and night. In fact, I remember spouses were cooking up there as these students were putting this thing together. They were so proud of it. And it was only a little 2-unit course. So here it is again. And then again, get a phone call from some of our grads. They're working for, say, Kaiser, and they say, George, how'd you like to have some steel to build a project there? And it's a special kind of steel called Mayari steel, and it rusts. And what we want to do is check it from year to year just to see if indeed if it's delivering on the chemistry. Say, great, we'd love to have it. And so they come down and they say, you design the building and we'll cut it for you. And so indeed, they delivered that all cut to form, and indeed you see the little structure going up. Now this is called the bridge house. What's the experiment? If you take unusable land and it bridges a little chasm, say, a little draw, land that you couldn't build on ordinarily, and now you put a bridge across the thing. And so there you have it, beautiful piece of structure. And you're getting to learn that things don't have to look like they always looked. The thing is that they can be beautiful what they are, just like a safety pin is a beautiful piece of sculpture, yet it does work and it's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Well, this is what you're looking at. What is beauty? What is appealing? And that's a philosophy all of its own. And yes, somebody else gives us the the window glass that goes in there. And so you see what I'm talking about? Bridging land that's unusable. This, just a little bridge that goes up there. And why? These pictures I took on Easter morning, meaning when you get involved, nothing stops you. There's nothing like motivation. You are your own education. Boy, it's not in the classroom. No, it's not in the catalog. It's within you. And then another way of thinking about structures is you don't use poles like beams and columns. There's one in the center, and then you hang the building on wires or on cords. See? How about steel 2x4s instead of wood 2x4s? What are the problems with steel? And you learned a lot why it's so difficult to make steel structures when you started using steel. And you'll experience that structure up there as well. Okay. And then again, strangely enough, a student comes around and said, my father taught me masonry, and I want to build an entrance to the canyon. So there you find that on the left. And here's a little bridge that one of our women students built, all by herself. Okay. Again, one of those stress reversals, a little bridge, and you'll see it up there. And here it is, this thing all in tension. It's like a tension bridge on the right. You spray it, and it becomes a compression bridge here on the left. Okay. Then there's going to be a little event that we call Design Village, and you'll participate in that. And again, this is to bring other people from other colleges and universities on campus, and they build a structure which is a creative structure. And you do that in some of your classes as well. But again, it's getting you to look at things as if they always haven't been there. The idea of creative solutions that just don't look like the standard conditioning that you were born in and we live in continually. And you look at that performing arts building, you look at the outside, it's done by one of our graduates, and it has forms that are very unusual, meaning they don't have to be box-like. There are pieces of sculpture, and you can make them relate to the surroundings and your own creative expression. Well, that's what these exercises are about. See? And what is a house, what is a shelter supposed to look like? Right? And again, the experience of having people see your work. You create this, and you're there, and you're listening, and you're watching people look at the curiosity, and you're learning a lot of lessons. Sometimes things that we react to negatively, eventually in time we grow to love. And you're dealing with facts, and you're dealing with rationality, but you're also dealing with intuitions and feelings. This is the kind of work you're in. And that's what makes it so exciting. Well, all right, so we're drawing it now toward the end. And this is then the third iteration of buildings. And this is where you'll spend much of your time. And it supplies the same problem. How can we take something which the state provides and humanize it? Okay? And this will be the story of your life, how to humanize environments. Okay? And you're dealing with a lot of people who really will not appreciate the way you look at the world. But you have the feeling you're right. You understand that aspect of appeal. Yes, indeed, you'll hold to it. Okay? Well, all right, so there's the backyard. We took that, and you started the humanization process there, cut a hole in there, put the yard, and you will have banquets and barbecues, etc., and this is what it looks like on the right. And, of course, getting into the communities. Now, one of the, really, I think, the epitome, the height of my experience here at school for this project here on the left. And this is the mission here. And there you see Monterey Street now that's going in front of the mission. Hey, that's the way it was. Well, when we came here in the early 50s, you look at San Luis Obispo, and you realize the great potential. There's this city with this little river, this little creek running through it. Amazing. The creek was a garbage dump. All the stores faced away on Higuera Street. See? And being in the work that we are, oh, what an opportunity. And so you start to educate the community. And slowly we make impacts on the community in so many ways. I sometimes wonder what this community would look like if we didn't have this school, this college here. Because we've had such an impact on it through faculty that's worked on committees and work that you people have done. Well, to me, this is the high point right here. So people started to look at this little creek, and we had a Mission Plaza plan, it was called. And so they were going to now landscape the creek, and this would be it. And the state of California was giving them a certain amount of money to to take that little jog out of Monterey that you see here on the right. There's a little jog there. And to run Monterey Street in front of the Mission. So you people were given the assignment of building a model of that jog smoothed out, and also what the plaza would look like. Well, as you're working on it, teamwork again, you're thinking about the lessons that you learned here and think about people usage, you say to yourself, but why does Monterey have to go through? Why don't we stop it there and make the plaza, from Creek to the steps of the Mission? See? And so, but the Planning Commission has passed it. The mayor now is ready to call the council together to look at the model. They've asked you to make a model of it. We're making this model. You're thinking about this. They're at that moment when they need the model to see the street going through. But anyway, so you get together and we talk about it, and you say, well, we've got the idea, we've got the interest. Let's also make a model of the street not going through. Well, so this you did. Now comes a day when the Planning Commission wants to see the model that you're making of that street going through. But before that, we get around and we talk about it, and we say, well, how are we going to get some support to close that street off? And so you think about it and you say, well, why don't we go to the newspaper and talk to the editor and show him our idea? Let's go talk to the university women and talk about the idea. Let's go down and talk to the Mission and talk about our idea. And sure enough, everybody that looks at the idea, which is yours, you say, are very excited about it. So now comes a day to make the presentation to the council. The mayor is there. It's all ready to be passed. And so you go ahead and you make a presentation. The mayor said, gee, that's fine. We love it. So, but you say, now, wait a minute. I got another idea. How about closing the street off, and you built the model in such a way you can turn over the center. It's on a pivot. You turn it around, and there is that Mission Plaza going all the way through right to the steps of the Mission. And then you go on and you describe it. There are 3 or 4 students, and mayor says, very, very fine, very good. So let's have a vote of the council on it. And a vote of the council on the street going through, because that's been approved all through the process. And he'd heard you, and he was very polite. And so somebody in the audience jumps up and says, well, wait a minute, we want to talk about this. And so people began to jump up. The council chamber was entirely full to describe how great it would be to cut that street off. The mayor got very angry about it, and he accused you people of fraud. A lawyer named Andre jumped up and said, you accuse the students of fraud, I'll defend them. See? And so there, this whole, it was just a tantrum being thrown by the mayor. And he gabbled quiet in the audience and said, let's have a vote. And the council now passed the street going through. All right? So next thing you did was a referendum. And a referendum is where an action has been taken and you want it put on the ballot. So you passed out the petitions, got enough signatures, and went on the ballot. And of course, the measure passed. There was a referendum against the action. The street was closed, and so we got that there. Well, to us, all the things that we had taught you in terms of an idea, how to make a presentation, and working with the community in a team fashion was embodied in that. So every day you walk by that, just think about those students that made that contribution to you, okay? And so there it is. That's the street that's closed off. Okay? And again, now we have a program abroad. And you can do that in your 4th and your 5th year. And so we have one in Florence, we have one in Denmark. How great it is. See, I lived in Costa Rica for 2 years after I got out of school, working on the Pan American Highway. And I realized how it's important it is to see the U.S., our country, from another point of view. And living in another country and looking at the great U.S., yes, I got other points of view. So I pushed as early as I possibly could to get that overseas program. And yes, we had this overseas program. It's in Florence now, and it's in Denmark. Now, it was interesting. We send you people abroad. There's a class. And of course, you carry that old Cal Poly spirit with you. Poly Royal, which is now called Open House, has a special meaning for everyone who has gone through this place. It was a week of building and of showing the world who we were. The students who were away from campus on our Florence Overseas program decided to celebrate that event by hanging a banner down the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So they worked out a strategy, just like we taught you to do. The banner was prefabricated in the dorm in sections, then were hid under your sweaters and assembled at the top of the tower. Students were stationed on every floor, and the banner was unfurled. There you have it, voila. There it is, Poly Royal 71. But it was not quite over. The Italian police thought it was a royalist plot and put the students in jail. You see, Poly Royal, royal. However, the American consul secured the release, explaining an American college student prank. Well, all right, so this is how all this started. See, take you back to the beginning. We're getting toward the end here now. These last two sides will be our conclusion, and somehow they remind me of Poly. And they're what Poly means, I feel. Use your back and your head and enjoy what you do. That if you enjoy what you do, you'll really never have to wake up in the morning and go to work. That concludes now some 45 years of history, and my voice has lasted throughout those 45 years presentation here. And this is a history of your life, and what is important about this is the spirit of the place, and that's what's made it, and this is what I'm trying to get across. I'm also trying to let you know that what's important about education is not necessarily always in the 50-minute classroom. That the interaction, the spirit of the place, you and your interchange with other students, all this goes to make up your education. So in conclusion now, let me read something to you which I find very appropriate. And that has to do with a gentleman named Fulgham who wrote, "All I needed to ever know I learned in kindergarten." And it goes something like this. It says, "Most of what I really know about how to live and what to do and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. Wisdom was not at the top of the graduate school mountain, but there in the sandbox at the nursery school. These are the things I learned. Share everything, play fair, don't hit people, put things back where you found them, clean up your own mess, don't take things that aren't yours, say you're sorry when you hurt somebody, wash your hands before you eat, warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Live a balanced life, learn some, think some, draw and paint, and sing and dance and play and work some every day. When you go out into the world, watch for traffic, hold hands and stick together. Be aware of Remember the little seed in the plastic cup? The roots go down, the plant goes up, and nobody really knows how or why, but we're all like that. Goldfish and hamsters and white mice, and even the little seed in the plastic cup, they all die, so do we. And then remember the book about Dick and Jane, and the first word you learned, the biggest word of all, look. Everything you need to know is in there somewhere. The golden rule, and love, and basic sanitation, ecology, politics, and sane living. Think of what a better world it would be if we all, the whole world, had cookies and milk about 3 o'clock every afternoon, then lay down with our blankets for a nap, or if we had a basic policy in our nation and other nations to always put things back where we found them and clean up our own messes. And it is still true, no matter how old you are, when you go out into the world, it's best to hold hands and stick together. Thank you, and that's it.